What is up, Life Church? Are you guys ready for At the Movies? Come on, you can do better than that. Are you ready for At the Movies? Because you guys go pay $10, $15 for a movie ticket, but now we're bringing movies to you on a Sunday, so we're going to have fun today. If I haven't met you before, let me introduce myself. My name is Zach. I serve on staff here at Life Church as our student director with my wife, Angela. And I absolutely love it. Been here for 2 years now, and it has been an absolute blast. The reason why I am up here and Pastor Chad is not today is because Pastor Chad and his wife are on a sabbatical, their season of rest, to go recharge so they can be the best pastors they can be for us. So this summer you'll see a lot of new faces up here and a lot of movies. So when you walked in, you got popcorn. I guess next week we might want to pass out those little flossers with it, because I know I hate popcorn because it gets stuck in my retainer. So it's like the worst thing ever. But how's that popcorn and coffee combo treating you? Is that a good mix? Because I think we might be onto something here, and we could start selling our own brand of popcorn coffee. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. It's terrible. Anyways, so movies and church. It's a crazy combo, right? So let me explain to you the why behind the what before we ever move into this today. During the ministry of Jesus, so while Jesus was here on planet Earth, 30 years before he ever started, the 3 years that he preached, that he taught, that he did what he did mostly through the avenue of parables. And if you don't know what a parable is, it's just a fancy word for a story that has a bigger lesson or a bigger point that was supposed to move our heart towards something. So, isn't that just what a movie is? A movie is a visual story that is meant to move our hearts towards something and even teach us a lesson. The parables of Jesus were often about farming. A lot of times he talked about a fig tree, he talked about sowing, he talked about reaping. I don't know about you, but I'm guessing the vast majority of us here are not farmers. Some of us might have green thumbs. You can grow tomatoes in your backyard, but even if you can grow tomatoes in your backyard, I highly doubt understanding everything. Like if somebody were to talk in reference to farming, you still wouldn't get it all, and that's okay. So what Jesus did is he redeemed culture. They were an agricultural community during that time, so he redeemed the sake of culture for teaching about the kingdom of God. And that's what we're doing. We're just taking culture and we're turning it around and we're advancing the kingdom forward with it. So our goal this entire summer is to build your faith and to encourage you to become a world changer. And I don't just say that as a cliche. I believe in this room there are world changers, and God has a potential for your life that can be unlocked and opened, and you can do amazing things. So this week, with no further ado, we're going to be pulling some spiritual principles from The Greatest Showman. If you guys haven't seen that movie, I know I might have to turn in my man card for it. It's a musical, but I absolutely love it. This has to be one of my favorite movies that have honestly come out lately, so I was really excited when I got to do this one. So this is the biographical interpretation. Sure, this guy's movie wasn't set out in a musical, but this is the biographical interpretation of P.T. Barnum, or what you may better know him for as Barnum and Bailey Circus. This circus lasted for over 146 years, but that legacy all started with one small dream. So as a young child, Barnum's family didn't have any money. They hardly had 2 nickels to rub together. I don't know where that really comes from. I don't know why you rub nickels together, but that's just one of those old people sayings that you say when you're broke. They were just broke. His father was a tailor, and he had met this family through the business, and this is where Barnum met Charity. But him and Charity are just children, but there's something special about Barnum in this moment. It seems like this kid knows what he wants. Sure, we don't express ourselves through singing duets, so that's probably not going to happen in real life. So if you're single in this place and you've got dreams and you meet a girl, it's probably not the best way to woo her is to start singing duets with her, because you'll probably freak her out more than anything. But the point we're trying to get to today is that Barnum was a young man with a dream, a very young man with a dream. And it wasn't just a dream, but it was a dream big enough to keep him awake at night. So let me ask you this question before we go any further. Have you ever had a hope or a dream this big? Something that you felt so passionate about, so that deep inside of you that you would just lie in bed and imagine the possibilities. Have you ever had a vision of something that seemed beyond the resources that you have in your hand? So whether you have or you haven't, I am thoroughly convinced that if you are a follower or a believer in Jesus Christ, there is that kind of vision inside of you. Let's talk about Joshua for a minute. This is Joshua 1, 2 through 5. You can follow along with me on the screens or actually on your app in the notes there. He said, this is God talking to Joshua here. He says, Moses, my servant, is dead. Therefore, the time has come for you to lead these people, the Israelites, across the Jordan River into the land that I am giving them. So pause right here. To give you some preface to this story, the Israelites have been wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. This is after Moses had stood up and split the Red Sea, and they walked across the sea, and they were marching to the place where God had given them the promised land. And so there's this young guy named Joshua, after Moses died, God is speaking to and kind of passing on the mantle of leadership to. And he goes in verse 3 and he says this, he says, I promise you what I promised Moses, that wherever you set your foot, you will be on land that I had given you. From the Negev wilderness in the south to Lebanon mountains in the north, from the Euphrates River in the east to the Mediterranean Sea in the west, including all the land of the Hittites. And watch this verse right here, verse number 5. He says, no one will be able to stand against you as long as you live, for I will be with you as I was with Moses. I will not fail you or abandon you. What a promise from God. So can you imagine being Joshua? You have to follow in the footsteps of one of the greatest heroes of faith that we talk about today in the Bible. You have to follow up leading the people that Moses just died leading. It's crazy. Moses, not only he split the Red Sea, but he received the 10 Commandments. And now you have to follow this act up. But it's not a far stretch as to why God chose Joshua to lead his people after such a great leader like Moses. If you look back at the book of Numbers, chapter 13, you see this is where Joshua is actually a young scout for the nation of Israel. He came back and he reported what he had seen in the promised land, in the land of Canaan, as it was called at the time. So Moses sent 12 scouts, spies, whatever you want to call them, intelligence agents, I don't care. But he sent 12 men over to see what was in the land, to discover and find what was there. Only 2 came back with a positive report, Joshua and Caleb. They said something that the 10 other spies didn't see. The 10 other spies said, we can't do this. This land is filled with giants. There's people there that we can't conquer, and we can't take this land, even though there's so much resource. But Caleb and Joshua came back and said, you don't understand. This is the land that is flowing with milk and honey. If you're lactose intolerant, I know that sounds terrible, but the honey part probably will make up for it. There's grapes. They said they brought back grapes or fruits back the size of their heads. And so there was so much promise in this land, and that's what they saw. So from a young age, we see that Joshua had a vision for something greater, even though other people thought him absolutely absurd and out of his mind. So now that Barnum has started a family and he's back from his time in the railroad, he wants to pursue this big dream that he had as a child, to entertain people, to build something that was so colorful and so vivid and so lively, but just to bring smiles and laughs to people. So after securing a sizable loan for the bank, he purchases a museum and is in the process of converting it to more than just static displays. He wants it oddities and curiosities, and this is why he starts gathering people of interest who have different talents and different. We'll just put it that way. So Barnum has the realization that he can't do it on his own. So he may have a building and he may have some capital to get his dream started, but he does not have everything that he needs to build his giant dreams. So catch this today. If you're going to take notes today, write this down. It's not a matter of what you have to accomplish your God dreams. It's a matter of who you have with you. Just like Barnum, Joshua could not accomplish the vision that God had given him without other people around him. So let's look back at this real quick. In Joshua 1, verses 5, this is God's promise. Going back to that, it says, for I will be with you as I was with Moses. I will not fail you, and I will not abandon you. God made Joshua the promise that he would never be alone in his dream and his vision and anything that he did. So without God, Dreams are just dreams. They're fantasy. But with God, dreams come alive and become our reality. With God, our dreams are no longer what happen when our eyes are closed, but they become what we live and what we see every day. So Barnum has seen outrageous success with the show that he's built and the circus that he's formed, in so much that the entire troupe receives an invitation from the Queen of England to travel across the Great Sea and to meet her. And there it's where he meets Jenny Lind, a renowned singer in the European area. So he wants to turn her talent to even greater success in the States. However, it goes south very quickly, as we see Barnum ends up leaving what his priority is, his family, what his dream should be benefiting, and he goes in with someone else who has a mind for something different. And however, it goes south very quickly. Jenny takes it too far, and that scene actually ruins Barnum's career and life by kissing him in front of an entire live audience. Barnum's wife, Charity, she actually makes a profound statement in that last clip. She says, "You don't need everyone to love you, just a few good people." So we have to remember the fact if it's that people have to partake in the vision that we have, but it's not just about having people. It's about the quality of the people who we resource our vision with. Barnum had lost everything because he failed to see the people who came alongside of him and invested in him and loved him and believed in him. They didn't just see him as the next stop to bigger and better. They were friends. They were family. They were something so much more. And the same is true for our friend Joshua in the Bible. Remember how I told you that Joshua was a scout in Numbers 13? He wasn't the only scout there. There were 11 others, and of the 12 that were there, only 2 came back with a good report. Now, remember how I told you that? But the report of the 10 wasn't just that they couldn't take the land and they couldn't move into the place that God had promised them to. Their report was so bad that it incited a rebellion inside of the nation of Israel. That people turned around and blamed God for their problems and their issues, that you brought us out of slavery, you brought us out of Egypt, you brought us through the Red Sea to bring us to this wasteland to die. You can't do this for us. And you know what happened because of that? An entire generation died before they ever got to see the promised land. Be careful who you bring into your vision. You don't need a bunch of people. You just need a few good people who will come together with you and march in the same direction and will lift you up and will carry you and will help you accomplish your God-sized dreams. Your God-sized dream is not a popularity contest or a ticket to earthly success. Your God-sized dream is meant to help other people. So because Barnum had failed to take care of the dream that he was pursuing and he was following, it all burned to the ground, both literally and figuratively. His whole life led up to this, and he had nothing to show for what he had dreamed anymore than just a pile of ashes. He had pushed his family and he had pushed his friends away. He pushed the people who cared away from him because he turned his dream from being about others and bringing joy to others to being about his success and his earnings. But in spite of all that, it was the same people he pushed away that came back and aided him and helped him rebuild what was lost, who turned around and, as they said in the movie, took joy as collateral to invest in him. It matters who you have around you. Your relationships in your life matter, every single one of them. That's why at Life Church we believe so much in life groups. It's not because they're a lot of fun and the food's great, but it's because it's in the context of relationship with like-minded people that we can overcome absolutely anything. Sometimes we're not going to feel great, as Joshua did when he watched the walls of Jericho fall, and as he did in chapter 6. We aren't always going to feel like everything is going our way, or that we've succeeded in what we've done. However, if we have the right relationships, we have the right people, we have the right voices in our life, we can overcome even the worst of situations in our life. It was the voice of 2 young men, just two young men of 12, Joshua and Caleb, that overrode the voice of 10 others as scouts, and they made a way for the promises of God to happen in the children of Israel. To this final scene of the movie that we see Barnum passes the torch of ringmaster to his friend and his partner, Bailey. In history, Barnum and Bailey, the circus, actually lasts for almost 150 years and was entitled The Greatest Show on Earth. And if any of you here have ever actually had the honor of seeing that circus, you would understand why it's called one of the greatest shows on earth and why it lasted so long. So as we conclude today, I want to challenge you. What are your dreams and what are your passions? What keeps you awake at night, imagining possibilities? What drives you to get out of bed in the morning? What keeps you awake? What are you trying to figure out how you'll pay tomorrow's bills? Or are you trying to figure out how you can accomplish what God has placed in your heart? So when you pursue the dream and the vision that God has placed in the heart, you not just feel a fulfillment and accomplish what God has done for you, but you also create a legacy that goes beyond your life and your immediate reach and what you can do. So look at Joshua, once again. His God-sized dream paved the way for an entire nation to find a home and a place to finally call their own after years and years and years of slavery and bondage. I believe that in this building, there are people who God has been speaking to leading up to this Sunday, that you've been having dreams, that you've been feeling that God prompting in your heart to do something more, to be something more. But I also believe in this place that God has been speaking to you during the course of this message, that some of you have realized, yes, I believe in Jesus. Yes, I feel like God maybe has something for my life, but maybe that something is about to become a reality. And this is what our prayer is for you today, is that God would begin to speak to you. And I'm not just talking about in dreams where you lay awake at night. And I love the songs. I love the movie. But there's got to be dreams inside of us that drive us to do something more, to be something more than just to wake up and clock in and clock out and feed the kids and clean the house. There's more to life than that. God is offering you something so much more. He's offering you purpose. He's offering you fulfillment. He's offering to take that 9 to 5 and make it to something so much more, where you could be reaching people, where you could be impacting people. If you work on the oil rig, can I tell you that God can use you a light on the rig? If you're a teacher in a school, you can be a light to those students. If you work in a grocery store, you can be a light to every person that comes through your cashier line. So look at the words of Jesus. If you would read in your Bible, these words would be read. These are the words of Jesus here. He says, I tell you the truth, that anyone who believes in me will do the same work I have done. Whoa, stop there. Jesus did some amazing stuff. He raised people from the dead. He healed people, but he doesn't just stop there. And he says, even greater works, because I am going to be with the Father. And so that's not just me saying it. You can take it from the words of Jesus. He is calling you to something so much more. You are not called to a life of ordinary, but you are called to a life of extraordinary. I don't believe in ordinary Christianity. There's nothing ordinary about being a Christ follower. Jesus died, conquered death, hell, and the grave, and you can do so much more. And so as we all stand in this place, I believe that greater works will be done, not by me, but by you. I believe that everything our city and our community needs is right here in this building today. I believe that everything our church needs to grow and reach this city and reach this world is under the sound of my voice today. Someone is waiting on you to start pursuing your God-sized dream and following that call and that passion inside of you. Someone is waiting on you to respond and share the good news of Jesus Christ and be a world changer.